Okay, so let's have a look at our linear graphs. Okay, so I guess the first thing is it's a bit of terminology. Our linear graphs are drawn on what we call a Cartesian plane. Okay, so named after a French mathematician René Descartes. Okay, so there's two axes on a Cartesian graph. The horizontal axis, okay, that's the x-axis. All right, my vertical axis, that's my y-axis. Okay, and they will always be that. All right, where the two axes join in the middle is called the origin, right, or the origin, the start. Okay, and that's where my point zero is. Okay, now to describe whereabouts on this Cartesian axis that we are, we use what we call coordinates. All right, and coordinates are just a reference system. All right, and what's really important with our coordinates is that our coordinates are a pair of numbers, always a pair of numbers, always in rounded brackets. The first number in that coordinate always gives us the x direction. Okay, the second number always gives us the y direction. All right, so if I've got a coordinate, say 3, 4, that's always the x value and the y value. And the 3 tells me which direction I travel in. So I have to travel 1, 2, 3 units across. And then the 4 tells me I travel 1, 2, 3, 4 units up. So that's the point 3, 4. If I want to travel, I don't know, 2 units down, I'd go 1 across and then 2 units down, and that's the point 1, -2. All right, so remember, my coordinates are always of the form x, y. First number, x direction, horizontal direction. Second number, y direction or the vertical direction. All right. There's just a few things that we'll talk about that you can do to your points, because I'm hoping that our coordinates are a little bit familiar to us. There's 3 transformations, we call them. The transformations are something, I guess, when things change, we transform. Caterpillars become, actually, I think caterpillars become moths, and a chrysalis becomes a butterfly. So if we have a translation, it means we move left and right, up and down. All right. So we can see over here, this translation, we started at the point, well, who knows where we started. If we start at the point -2, -6, you can see how we travel from -2 across to +4. So we move 6 units across. Okay. We could do the same thing with a vertical translation. I might move from that point there, 4, 5, down to that point there, 1, 4. And you can see that we've had a vertical translation of, well, we've gone 1, 2, 3, 4 units down. Okay, so my translations can be moving left or right. Reflections are like a mirror, okay, where you flip the point sort of upside down or left to right. Okay, so when we reflect, okay, if we want to remember I guess a rule, if we reflect in the x-axis, that means we're reflecting, there's my x-axis there, and so we're reflecting this way, up and down. All right, so when we reflect up and down, the y value changes. So you'll notice there, I'm at the point P12, it became the point, and we might often call it P dashed, 1, -2, should make it a bit bigger. So when we reflect in the x-axis, the y value changes. All right, so in the x-axis means just about, so that's my center of reference, it's about that point. If I'm going to reflect in the y-axis, it's about the y-axis, so I'm sort of reflecting vertically, we'd say. All right, so I'm at the point -3, -5, and that point's reflected over to +3, -5. So I guess instead of going 3 units to the left, we decide to go 3 units to the right instead. All right, so what value changed? I went from -3, -5 to +3, -5. All right, and so that becomes then a reflection in the y-axis. The last one that we're going to look at, and we will come back and reference them, is a rotation. And that's exactly like a clock. Okay, if there's my clock hands, and we'll keep it relatively simple, and there's 90 degrees between all of them. So remember, if I'm going in the same direction as the clock, that's clockwise. If I go in the opposite direction as the second hand, it's anti-clockwise. Okay. So if we think about what happened to here, this point here at 4, -1, okay? So if we want to rotate 90 degrees in an anti-clockwise direction, I'm going to come around this way. Okay, so these are a bit tricky. So really what ends up happening is the point 4, -1, if we have a look up here, instead of going across 4 units and down 1, I do the opposite. I go across 1 and up 4. So the 0.14, so we're swapping the size of the steps that we take. So instead of going Q is 4 to the right and 1 down, okay, the point Q dash instead, the reflection, is actually 1 to the right and 4 up. Okay, so the point is we sort of try to end up with 90-degree angle between them. Okay, if I want to rotate that point Q dash again, instead of being 1, 4 up, I'm now 4 to the left and 1 up. So instead of being 1 to the right and 4 up, I'm 4 to the left and 1 up. So you see how we're sort of swapping the X and Y steps, if you like. All right. I think the rotations are a little bit more challenging, and we might need to practice those a bit. All right. So, but there's our references. These are the key notes that I think we need to take down. All right. Let's start example 1 by just plotting these points. Plot each of these points on the Cartesian. So at the start, what I suggest we do is we put a little XY, just to remind you that it's X first, then Y second. So the point A13 is 1 to the right and 3 up. So I should probably put it 1 to the right and then 3 up. So we put the point A13. Point B is 2, -1. So I go across horizontal 2 points, 2, and then down 1 unit, and that's the point B, 2, -1. I'm going to make this quite bigger so I can fit everything in. The point C, -5 across, so -5 is starting at 0 and it's moving to the left, across to -5, and then we're going to go down 2 units, 1, 2. So C is -5, -2. D, 0 across, which means I'm starting at 0 and staying at 0, so I'm not going to move left or right. And then I'm going to go 3 units down. So that's the point D, 0, -3. F is the point 5, -1. So 5 across to +5, and then -1 down. F, 5, -1. And then we better get one more colour here that's different. And then we'll do G is the point 0, 5. That's disappointing, the point 0, 5. So it's 0 across and 5 up. All right, so there's all our points. So I might just rub out some of the lines that I've drawn in there, and the dots that we've collected. So there's all the points labelled on our axes, on our Cartesian axes. Okay. Now, the next part of it's going to ask us to do a few transformations and then relabel the points. Okay. So let's work with the same colours. So what colour do I start with? All right, so let's start with the point A. What's happened to the point A? A is blue. A, I need to translate the point A 3 units left. So let's come up to A and go 1, 2, 3 units left. And I'm going to call that A dashed. And what's that coordinate? Well, we were at 1 and moved 3 units to the left, so we've gone to -2, but we're still at a height of 3. Okay, so we've done that one. And what we can do, we can write that coordinate in here straight away. We're at -2, 3. B is in red. What do we have to do for B? Translate the point B 2 units down and label B dashed. So here's the point B here at 2, -1. If I go down 2 units, notice I'm still at 2 across, but I moved down to -3. So let's put that into B dashed. Go blue again for C. Translate the point C 3 units up. There's the point C is over here on the left. So the point C has moved 3 units up. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And where am I now? Well, I was down at -2 plus 3 puts me at +1. -5, 1 for C dashed. So let's fill that in. Okay, hopefully you're getting a feel for this. I think a good idea is to pause it at any point in time and then you have a go and then keep playing. Green. D is a reflection in the x-axis. So in the x-axis, let's just check what that means. Let's check our notes. Reflection in the x-axis, the y value changes sign. Okay, so I'm going to change my y value. So the point D is the point 0, -3. If I change the sign of my y value, I could even type it in first. It becomes the point 0, +3, which is, well, let's rub out some of those other lines that I've put, just so they're not in the way. And we're now at the point 0, +3. So there's the point C dashed, 0, 3. Okay. Oop, that was a D dash, wasn't it? Let's just undo it. D dashed is the point 0, +3. Try to make it a bit bigger. Let's go down to F, which is what color? Yellow. F says, actually, now I've got another reflection here first. E, reflect in the y-axis. What color is E? Where's E, boys? E is the point 41. I missed E. That's okay, let's do it in black. Point E is the point 41, which is 41 there. So there's the point E. And now we have to reflect in the y-axis a point E and label it E dashed. So what do we do if it's in the y-axis? When reflected in the y-axis, the x value changes sign. So let's change the sign on the x value. So instead of being at +4, I'm at -4, +1 over here. -4, +1. Okay, so there's my reflections in the x-axis and the y-axis. All right, last two. So now I'm at F, which is yellow. Rotate the point F 90 degrees in a clockwise direction. So clockwise direction is this way. Okay. So really, I want to swing this point around to here. Okay. So I'm still, 5 units from the axis, but it's just a different axis. So what coordinate is that now? I'm at the point -1, -5, and that's F dashed. Okay. What's the final one? Final one was in a pink color. Rotate the point G 180 degrees in anti-clockwise direction. Now, if you think about 180 degrees, we know that a circle is 360. So whether I go 180 degrees to there or 180 degrees in the opposite direction, I'm going to end up at the same point. So 180 is a good one in some ways because it doesn't matter which direction we go. Well, let's do it right. Anti-clockwise. So the point, I didn't label it, the point G is up here. And if I'm going to go 180 degrees, I want to rotate it all the way around to here, which is actual fact it's there, isn't it? 5 units down. So what's that coordinate? That's 0 left or right, but 5 units down. And we're going to call that G dashed. So what we say, 0, -5. All right, and we did the coordinates there as we went along. So there's quite a bit there, boys, to be honest. Okay, so the first step, first few exercises is plotting our points. All right, and then we want to try and do a few translations, reflections, or rotations. So if you need to stop and have another look, have a listen. Otherwise, have a go at the 14.2 exercises.